Hello, hi, welcome to Yedidia Shofet.net, and welcome to Parshat of the week, Parshat Toldot. So, in this week's Parsha, once again, the theme repeats. What do I mean the theme repeats? Last week, we saw all about Sarah, how she passed away. Abraham had to go through a lot of pain, a lot of difficulties. And what was the big and pain and difficulties that the both of them had together? That they also were barren. They also weren't able to have a kid. And finally, when they were able to have a kid, Yitzchak, Abraham had to bring him up onto the mountain. It was very difficult. But we see, through all that pain and all that suffering, we see ultimately they had a kid and they went through it. And Baruch Hashem, they had Yitzchak. But what about this week? Again, the theme occurs. But what do they do in order to entreat God, in order to make sure that they could also have kids? So it says in the pasuk, "Vayetar Yitzchak laHashem." It says that they prayed, that they asked and they begged God and they prayed together, and ultimately God answered his prayers. And then Rivka conceived. So it's something very interesting though, because I know a lot of people, unfortunately, they may not be able to have children, and some people 5 years, 10 years down the line, they have kids, sometimes even 15 years they have kids. And they go for berachot, they go for blessings. And recently in the news you hear about the unbelievable cases where women, even without both of their ovaries, they've even had kids. I mean, it's unbelievable things that happen. So the question over here is that what was the formula? What was the formula that they used in order to have their tefillot answered? Because many of the times people daven, people put in the kotel, people go ask Talmid Chachamim, but many times it doesn't happen. What is one of the possible ways of the tefillah that you see that Yitzchak and Rivka they had, that ultimately they were answered to have a child? So there's a beautiful story. It talks about Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. Shimon Bar Yochai, the author of the Zohar, and he was known to have great the capabilities for berachot, for blessings. And there was one time, a couple, that after 10 years, they weren't able to have kids. No matter how much they tried, they weren't able to have kids. And after 10 years, they said, I think it's time to move on. We have to be a mekayem, we have to fulfill, the words of the Torah, to have kids, in order to make generation after generation. And it was very painful for them. But they asked Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, they asked him, please Rabbi, is there anything you can do? Can you give us a blessing? He says, I'm sorry, I can't give you any blessing. So he says, my blessing's not gonna affect you. He says, what do you mean? Of course your blessing will affect you. He says, I'm sorry, I can't. I want to, but I can't. So, they were in anguish, they were in pain, and they said, okay, fine, we want a divorce. So he tells them, okay, I'll let you divorce, but on one condition. You have to do one thing. You have to enjoy this divorce. What? They told him, are you crazy? How do you enjoy this divorce? Let me finish. The same way how you had a great joy, you had a meal, you had a delicious dinner, wine, everything. The same way how you had that at the night of when you got married. The same way you're going to do it when you're going to get divorced. That means tonight, before you get divorced, I want you to please promise me that you're going to have a great meal and a great simcha, that's how you're going to be divorced. Ended on a very happy note. So I said, okay, Rabbi, if that's the case, we'll do it. So that night, a big banquet, and the wife sitting at one end of the table, the husband sitting at the other end of the table. A very bittersweet moment, because they did love each other. They loved them, but it was so hard, the difficulties of the childbirth, and they said that, it's time to go. So, but they said, let's anyways do what the rabbi says. And the rabbi, he tells them, remember, good food, good wine, everything, and they set up the entire table, and they're sitting there behind the banquet, and they're having a good time. They're drinking and drinking and eating and drinking until the husband completely passes out. He drank so much that he sort of lost conscious, and he went to sleep on the couch. And the wife, before the husband passed out, the husband told his wife, says, look, anything you want from my home, take it, it's yours. Anything you want from my home, take it. I love you, but I know that we have to go and we have to split up things. Anything you want, just take it from my house. Anything. So when the husband passed out, she told her servants, please, take him. Take him and bring him to my home. So they took him, and they brought him to his home, and in the morning, when he woke up, he was wondering, what am I doing here? She said, you're in my house. Well, why? Because you said I could take anything I wanted, and I wanted you. So he didn't know what to do anymore. He told her, look, we have to go to the rabbi, we have to tell him. So they go over to the rabbi, and they tell him everything what happened. And the rabbi, Rashum Baruch Chai, says, now I can give you a bracha. I said, what? He says, yeah, I can give you a bracha. What do you mean now you can give me a bracha? Weren't you able to give us a bracha before? No, I was not. And he gives him a bracha, and later that year they had a kid. And they asked him, like, why couldn't you give the bracha before? So Rashum Baruch Chai said something very interesting. He said, the power of my bracha, it depends on you guys. It depends on the couple. If the couple is together strong and with love and with care, and they're on the same page, and they're dedicating everything together, that means there's no feelings of remorse towards each other. There's no feelings of hatred or anger or that's your fault, but rather the tefillot and the feelings are together, they're mutual and they're happy, and they're for a higher purpose. That's when I'm able to give a bracha. Because I'm trying to give a bracha into a couple that it's cloudy. How do you know that the couple's going to get anywhere? But when the couple is strong and together, and there's a love between each other, and not only that, but the love is together, it's mutual, then I'm able to enter into the scenario and give them a bracha. So by Yitzchak and Rivka, I want you to look at something very interesting. It says, Vayetar Yitzchak LaHashem, so Yitzchak, he prayed, Lenochach Ishto, opposite his wife. What do you mean opposite his wife? Meaning the wife herself. They were together, and they prayed. Because she was there with him. She was on one side of the room, he was on the other side of the room. They prayed together. They made sure together that they would be able to ask for the child together. They wanted it as a unit. They wanted it as one feeling together. Now, what does that mean? That means that any time that there's a bracha, that there's a blessing a person is asking for, they have to make themselves ready in order to accept that bracha, that blessing. They have to give everything that they have, their abilities, in order to have their tefillot to be answered. Meaning that a person can pray all day for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to help him with this, help him with that, but he has to also show how much he wants it. You have many couples, many people that they're willing, and because of the frustration, sometimes they don't respect each other anymore. They don't have that same feeling towards each other anymore, and because of that, it gets very difficult for the brachot to go through, for the tefillot to go through. But when they have that unit, that they're together, and they have it with such dedication and such love, it's a higher chance for those tefillot to go together. It's a higher chance when the rabbi is going to bless you for it to go together. When there's difficulty and there's struggles and there's misconceptions about what each other wants, then that's the barrier that's holding the bracha back. But when everyone's together, lenochach ishto, that they're opposite each other. What does it mean opposite? It doesn't mean opposite as in two separate sides, but meaning they have the same goal, they have the same status, they're with each other, they pray together, that they have the idea that this is the right way and we want it together, there's a much higher chance. Just like Rashum Baruch Chai said, you have to make yourself the perfect receptacle to receive this blessing. May everyone make themselves prepared, and may everyone understand that they have that ability to set the table so that when the blessing comes, they can enjoy it together, whether with their family, whether with their wife, whether with their friends, with their whole entire family. I wish everyone a beautiful Shabbat. Be'ezrat Hashem. I'll see you next week for Halacha of the Week, week 51.